Hey, welcome to another episode of Create or Die. Today's episode is brought to you by a little beverage I like to call Diet Coke. Yep, that's right, I'm back on the sauce. I swore off it for a little while, went straight to the all sugar thing, thinking that would be better for some reason. Didn't want to get the Alzheimer's or what have you. But in the end, nothing replaces the silver can Diet Coke. No, just kidding, my friends. I guess I'm a little excited because you know what this is? This is the beginning, the very beginning of episode number 50. That's right, 50. So we've been doing this for a long time. Like that's a pretty good milestone. So if you're curious, like what do we got in store for episode 50? Just hang around. Yep. So here we are, episode 50. Today we brought on one of our favorite guests here on the program, a man who's been on the program second only to myself. That's right, Mr. Trevor Williams. Super stoked to have him on once again. And I'll be honest, we didn't really have a script. You know, we're both busy, we're cranking on some animations, visuals, creative for a big event next week. So we just, stole 30-40 minutes of a lunch break to throw this thing together. But in the end, I think you'll find there are some knowledge-laden nugs up in here. So you get ready for that. And without further ado, let's get this thing rolling. No, I'm hitting record because you might talk about some good stuff, and I gotta stick in the
totally
podcast.
Not doing anything.
So yes, tell me more about this awesome Blender stuff you've been working on, Trevor.
No. Some of it's under NDA, but
yeah, okay, well, yeah, sure. Don't want to get you in trouble.
But I have been dipping my toes more into Blender, and I do love it. Now that the C40, Cinema 40 2024 has come out with some new features, and you've seen some of that, and that Redshifts just integrated in and stuff. Obviously, beautiful, and it makes me happy. And Cinema 40 was my first baby, but I've kind of committed to just going all into Blender, and I'm always impressed with how intensely good that software is these days. When at first I thought it was such garbage and I wasn't going to give it the time of day, I was just happy it was free and that if I needed to use it, I could use it. But
it was definitely looked down upon. If you really focused on Blender, it was kind of like, oh, that's cute. So you weren't able to afford one of the real packages or whatever. But now it's kind of a rite of passage. Like, no, this is legit. They do things that no other application does, and it's so highly supported and loved by so many that just continues to grow at a pace that I think the big boys are going to have a hard time keeping up with.
Yeah, I saw this meme the other day where it was like Blender these days, and I think they took it from Spider-Man 3 and they put the Blender face logo over. It's walking down the street and sliding and doing the dance and all this weird stuff. And but all the other 3D programs are just kind of like obviously, kind of on the wayside and looking at how Blender's starting to shine and just have the best day of its life.
Yeah.
And I kick myself that I didn't bet on it as much as it deserved, and didn't really even notice how fast it just became so prominent and so important. But it really has, and It's a very, very fun tool. So anyways, yeah, I've been saying I'm starting to work more in it, and I've been loving it. Man,
are there specific features that you're using more of nowadays than before, or without divulging any specific projects? Are you leveraging the grease pencil more, or
I haven't. I'm about to, but
okay.
Yeah, I just going into I've done a little more product stuff with it, and a little more but doing a few things, a few tests with what you did. You and I were working on a few projects where I brought in some people, and I was using some of the cell shading and giving it some looks, and then using the cameras around it, and getting results out of it that I loved. That initially I did where we used Cinema 4D, and we used just some textures and some lighting situations, and we rendered that out so that I could go over and then do all this like boiled line and cell shading stuff by hand, frame by frame, to get a great effect for these videos. But then I was getting something a little more perfect straight out of Blender. Not that Cinema 4D can't do that.
Sure.
It just, what I was doing though, I felt like it took less steps. It was a little less hassle, and became more efficient for time, for the effect, and it was something I was proud of. But I just it's similar to what I did play with Nuke a few times, and I really wish I could do more with Nuke. But again, a lot of these things just are out of a price range way out of my pocket.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And so I can't afford, unless I'm working for a company that's willing to fork it out. That's the only way I'm going to touch some of those tools. Otherwise, it's just hands off, and I just kind of admire the people that do use them.
Yeah.
But
and you've got like DaVinci or whatever. DaVinci is another nonlinear, time-based video editor that seems to be, getting more and more adopted.
Exactly. And that's one thing I need to do more of, is touch that too, as far as learning. I started learning it about 10 years ago, and did about 2 or 3 months of learning it, but then didn't really touch it too much, because I just was so consumed in Premiere Pro, and I was consumed in a few other things. And so, but it too is to a point where it's kind of like, I should really know it and use it. And I keep doing that. Like, I love being a student, and I love learning, and I love touching all these tools. And like I've told you, I like being a Swiss Army knife, or a jack of all trades kind of generalist. Because it's very
well. And I think that your knowledge of other applications, like you said, I wish I would have taken Blender more seriously earlier on, but your experience in Cinema 4D, a lot of it can translate over. Obviously, that you should be able to translate the view, or orbit around your object, and then it's like there's got to be a way to bevel and all these things, or Cinema 4D does it this way. And so it definitely not starting from square one. I mean, you have to kind of get at least a primer on, where do I find things in Blender. But
yeah.
Well, and then I think that's where Blender is benefiting too, is something will come out in Cinema 4D or Maya or ZBrush even, and someone who uses both will come in and be like, yeah, well, I'm going to build something to give Blender this capability.
Well, I remember even working on 1 or 2 projects where someone else was doing most of the, the lion's share of the work in Blender. I jumped in once or twice, but most of the times I was hands off. And, that program at first is intimidating. It doesn't react initially how I learned other 3D programs, right? But once you get in and you just get one or 2 days of frustration out, and you've just spent some time. All of a sudden, it just comes, and the more you noodle with it, the more it comes, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, and it's all making sense, and then you just kind of have to break through that first initial wall, which I don't know. I guess it probably varies for everybody, whoever tries it, but I wouldn't say it would take more than 2 or 3 days of just noodling with the program to finally understand and navigate more and have more confidence in it than before. But yeah, it's pretty impressive, and I'm now on the other coin of that, where before I would always say, wow, that was pretty impressive, I wish I could be at that level, and then all of a sudden a week later I'm like at that level thinking, oh, I thought that was so impressive.
You're blazing new trails.
Yeah, I thought that was so impressive. But now I'm like, I got this. So, speaking of I got this, I listened the other day. So, I think a lot of people feel that maybe they don't got this, with AI, with you keep every day getting so much sensational news like, oh no, Adobe's self-cannibalizing because the actual AI tools that they've built are now taking away the jobs, which is now taking away the subscriptions of the people that pay for the product that they're building, that now it consumed the jobs, and so it's self-cannibalizing. But despite all that sensational news, I do think whatever and wherever AI is going to go, I can't predict. Nobody can predict. I do know it's going to stay. It's here to stay. As much as this writing strike and film strike and all this stuff is going to last. I don't know how long, but I don't feel like it's ever going to completely go away. I do hope that there is more in terms of regulating it and keeping it safe and keeping it ethical. But okay, that's all. I feel like we could get lost in the weeds talking about all of that. All I want to say is we may not feel like we've got this and that our lives and our jobs are over, but I do believe that, and I keep seeing people as well kind of showing like, we're striving to show that despite this world of AI and all this stuff, it still takes a human to really build a style and show creativity and do this process, and it's those like 7 or 3 or 4 or whatever, how many pillars you want to say of a process, it's still going to come down to human to do that. I do believe that there is a need for that, and as we start to govern AI a little more, we're going to see more of that, so people don't panic. I think there's something, but we have to be committed to working into moving forward. Something you've talked about a lot, and something that is necessary, that we just continue to plan out little step, and do something. Because the other day I listened to this other podcast, not to like say I'm not listening to yours, I'm listening to yours, but
what the heck?
But
I feel so violated.
But no, but the conversation was specifically about opening up and being vulnerable to the fact that here's a creative that has spent the last decade and really hasn't shown any great work for the fact. I mean, he's done great work, been on lots of projects, all these things, but he's never really like strived to move the needle forward as far as where he wants to be in his career, or to truly say like, okay, that piece is something that I built, that is truly all me, that is something that I've given to this world that has the best of me in it, the best of what I can do. And it, whether it's award winning or whether that's not necessarily the point, it's I've made something that I can be proud of, that is completely the essence of me into this creative process. And rung true with. I mean, I almost felt like, hey, I'm sitting here as living proof that I'm exactly that person. I could be saying the same exact thing. I've been sitting here for another, a decade or more, and I've done great work and I've done lots of fun stuff, but there isn't a single piece in that, 10 years that I feel like, man, that was all me. That was just something that I really wanted to share to this world, and like passion project of mine that just is there, whether it goes viral or something. I'm not up for that, and the conversation wasn't necessarily for that either. It was just feeling like you could achieve your highest potential.
You were truly proud of.
And you probably
because I think we're our hardest critic for sure.
Maybe you feel the same, like despite your success, despite
totally
where you're even at as far as your career and what levels and tiers you've moved up the ladder, the chain, the totem pole. I mean, because a lot of the time we can feel like we're in a rat race, but even then, despite feeling like there's success in your position or these other things, I really do want to put something out there that, and not just one thing, many things. The only way to do it is to get started. But I mean, we get stuck in the weeds of of not doing bad things. I mean, being a father and trying to make sure I put priority to my kids, or being a husband, or, those are two things, but you could name 1,000 other things that you're trying to do that have great high priority and great moral value. But it's also, whether you want to hide behind it, that's an excuse, like, I'm trying to be the best dad I can be, or I'm trying to be the best whatever, or I put more emphasis on this other hobby of mine, cooking, or this craft, or taking care of a sick family member. It could be any of those things, right? Or I
think that what happens is, like to your point, we've got all these other things in our personal life, obviously, and super important, and then we've got our day jobs as commercial artists, whether it's video or animation or graphic design or whatever, and we're dealing with stakeholders and design by committee, and so we don't feel like anything we do is ever truly just us, or our timelines are so short, and it's not even that, if we were to dig deep and pull a couple of all-nighters, it's not even a matter of that, because not only do we have this one video project, for example, that we're working on, we've got 10 other smaller things that just need to be churned. And so we fall into these traps of like good enough, or putting some duct tape on something we've done in the past, and hopefully getting it by, the approvers, and just, okay, we live another day type of thing. But and how in that type of an environment can we ever truly create something that we're really, really proud of, is the question and the problem that you're posing here. And so, one solution, because I've given this a lot of thought, is somehow we have to be okay with realizing that really good things take a really long time to produce. And, the comments about AI and different things, I think it's just like, templates, leveraging templates or stock photography or different things that can get us to a certain point in our project maybe more quickly than we would have if we had to create everything by scratch. Like, let's stay in the 3D world, for example. Like, they do these mega scans of environments, right? You've got this amazing rock wall and ground and trees, and you can throw that together and it even comes with the materials, and just light it the right way, and okay, all of a sudden you have this realistic world. Well, now we have the time to create our custom model of our hero character or product model or whatever, and can put more time into that. So to kind of have an aside there about how I think AI will help us as creators is it's just we're not all reinventing the wheel every time. It's like we can start from up here and then take it further rather than starting down here and barely have enough time to not even get to where others are at with bigger teams or whatever.
Yeah.
But back to the point of things taking a lot of time is it's like I think we have to be okay with ourselves of saying, okay, I want to create this thing. I'm excited about it. It's a big, heavy lift. If I could work on it full time, maybe it would take me 2 months of, 40 hours a week. But I don't have full time to work on it, so it may take me 2 years of a half an hour here, 2 hours here. But just chipping away at those things and staying the course on those types of projects, I think that is how the successful artists or creators who actually get things done, they're just able to say, okay, I've picked something that I want to work on and I'm going to dedicate a manageable amount of time on it, a day or a week. And the next thing you know, you're able to fit maybe 2 of those types of things in a year. And you're like, wow, okay, I have 2 things that I'm really proud of this past year.
Yeah.
And now you look back the past 5 years and that's 10 things. And
yeah.
But in this world where it's like, oh, social expects me to post an amazing masterpiece every day, or I'm not good enough.
Well, yeah.
Or,
and if you're chasing that,
yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah. And if you're chasing that, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, and it just becomes like you just burn out. So what I also think is like, find the things that you're passionate about, that truly all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that one thing just gave me so much joy inside to think about, because that's going to give you enough like energy and fuel to just do it. But then hold yourself accountable as far as putting away the distractions, because there's so many distractions and disruptions. But whether you're good at that or not, that's something you have to build at, because I think the hardest part is starting. The first few steps are the hardest. But once you get going, that same passion and joy that you just had, it's almost like a drug that will push aside all fatigue, will push aside all doubt, and all of a sudden, if you've taken those first few steps, whatever wall was blocking you is gone, and you can just all of a sudden flow. But one thing that helps is to just have a checklist a physical one. Don't put it like on your phone or something. Maybe actually take a piece of notepad. Just plan out your day, but also plan out like the rewards of it. So it's like, okay, I'm going to get this and this done. I'm going to spend this much time, and just whatever I'm at, even though I might be a perfectionist or have a certain bar, I'm just going to say, that's done at this point, or whatever timer, I'm moving on, check. But hold yourself accountable by the end of the day. And if you still haven't done that 1%, and I think even if it's just say 1%, it usually will turn into more like 5 or 10 because of that fuel that will all of a sudden just, oh, I'm finally on this one thing that I've, I'm excited about, because I know that you can get
your reward for getting all that other stuff done as you get to work on this one pet project.
For 1%. And just commit to 1% a day, because sometimes you might be at the end of the day and it's just like, but to not go to bed unless you do 1%, because that 1% will still be better than 0, right? But
exactly.
With that said, that goes on to say that like, one thing that's been great about these AI tools is even most recently, while I've had to do a few like graphics for a conference, I love the new generative expand and all this. Like, there's generative fill and all this stuff, but if even then, like, I take this image of a person that I have to do something, and it's like, okay, I can just obviously hit remove the background or do this or whatever, but also it's like I need to scale the image up and do all this stuff, but I also want to expand and add more, because this photo is all vertical. I need something more horizontal or landscape, and then just use that crop tool and generative expand, I think is what it's called, or something. But oh my gosh, it's so exciting.
It's a huge time.
So fast. What used to take me, talk about 10 years ago, it used to take me an hour, now only takes a second. I love that. It's just so, that's time that's time back in your pocket. So
these if you think about it, that just kind of evens the playing field a little bit. Like, because if you had a photographer there and your model, and they could take the shot you wanted, then it would be no problem. But because you're a one-man guy and you don't, have this other guy here in person, you use AI to create what the original photo was lacking. Yeah, it's huge.
Absolutely.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
And it's exciting stuff.
I was just going to say, I am excited for some of these new tools, and as they continue to even get better, just been playing with them, watching a few new tutorials, watching some new use cases of how people are using it. It's just amazing. But I also love a good process that still does take, either you can do all within something, like Blender is that one case. I was almost getting to the point, say with Nuke and things, you never necessarily have to leave the program. You can just do it all within there. However, I have been learning as well Nomad Sculpt. I think it's so fun. I love anytime I can use my iPad. I love using my iPad. Yeah. Just because it's nice to sometimes get away from your desk, go somewhere else, and just be creative. I know you do it all the time. Like, you're always in front of the TV doing it. So I'm trying to do that more. Yeah. And I've been doing more digital painting. It's so satisfying. I've been the other thing that's been so passionate is that I picked up a sketchbook. It's not by my desk. It's downstairs, actually. I should have had it so I could show you.
A traditional paper sketchbook.
Yes. And I'm trying to go through one a year now, or at least. Okay. I've tried to commit to getting the habit of doing at least daily sketching in that, but I haven't been 100%. And so there's been a little back and forth. Sometimes it's like I'll do sketching in that, but I'll also do some digital sketching on my tablet or my iPad. And so I'm getting some digital art into, which I think is okay, because I think if I want to keep all muscles flexed. But the one thing that's really cool is, so it was actually, seeing Across the Spider-Verse and things that really just said, what am I doing? Why am I not doing the sketchbooks? And this art is so cool, and I want to do more. So I got a sketchbook, and I started getting really fun and creative and messy with it, and using paint markers and using watercolors. And I even have these. I love these. I love the paint paint markers and paint like pens. Yeah. But Posca or whatever. You can probably barely see it. But cool. Yeah, these colored pencils are awesome. I had Prisma colors back in the day that I loved, but I love these as well. I'm trying to do more even with markers. I'm trying to do it with all mediums and just enjoying it. But what's great is how satisfying it is, and how just I'm even getting ideas. Just sometimes you feel like if you're in a digital program, you have to be perfect, because it's like this computer can make it perfect. But totally, it's those imperfections that are so great. And I don't know if you saw... And the limitations too, yeah. So I don't know if you saw the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, but... I haven't seen it yet, no. Oh. Killing me. Go see it. Fan. Yeah. I love the only reason is I love the imperfections of it. I love how sketchy and how it looks like it's a sketchbook, and some teenagers' sketchbook. Not even like we're not talking about professionals, like real, for however clean and comic style and beautiful the Spider-Verse is. This is fills that style, but it's different. It's just more painterly and artistic, and I love that. And that's one reason I liked Across the Spider-Verse is like you get into Spider-Gwen's universe, and it gets all watercolor, and being fun, and it's different. And
that was fun to see the different styles.
Yeah, and so this is just another taste of that, and it makes me want to create just not even to mimic their style, but to take something of that nature of, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to go into Nomad Sculpt and I'm going to sculpt this thing, and then I'm going to throw it into Blender, and but I'm also going to go into Procreate, and I'm going to paint and texture the UVs and go all messy, and then I'm going to also maybe do extra layers that are close to the, like, attached and even working with the model and the rigging of the model that actually are not necessarily
floating above it.
Yeah, floating and near and above it. It's like, I just love some of the possibilities, and to even push it into other realms that's not necessarily fully animated. It's like an animated thing, maybe in an actual physical world, or actual physical, like something of footage and cinematic. So there's lots of stuff that I'm starting to work on 1% at a time to just facilitate a little more of like how I see the world, or how I want to, not even to make a trend, but to just say, like, this is something that I feel is really, really cool, and I'm just sharing it out there, not even for likes, just sharing it out there.
Yeah, and I think that's a great exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you're getting away from the computer, getting away from, the precise mathematic vectors and pixel perfect stuff, and you're getting analog again, that's where those amazing ideas come from, where you're like, I'm going to go back into Nomad Sculpt or whatever, but I want it to feel like it was sculpted by hand, and then someone used frosting for the hair, or they stuck paper mache in this area to give this technique, and you're just pulling from all of these real world experiences that you've had to create something that's new and unique and breathes life into what comes out of the computer. Is super exciting, and that's great that you're finding time to do that. Along those lines, and you mentioned it earlier, and I think it's something that maybe I'm sure we've all experienced, but it's something that I would like to find a process to conjure the feeling of flow up at will. Like when you're in the zone, you're feeling flow, whatever you want to call it, where you can do no wrong. You're getting things done quicker. The ideas are just coming to you. So I'm curious, what's your experience with flow when you get into that state? And do you have any ideas of how one could do some exercises or something to help trigger that?
Yeah. So like I said, to get into the flow, you have to come to terms with yourself as far as sitting down and starting. The hardest part is starting. But if you can start and just go a little bit, even if it's sometimes I find that it's like everybody's probably a different struggle, but my biggest struggle is I want to sit down and I want to make it pretty perfect on the first go, right? But my newest flow that gets me in the flow, the best way for me to get in the flow is to just get the trash out first. Just freaking sit down and just start going, and let the first few strokes or the first few blocks of whatever you're doing, just get it on there, and quit looking at a blank screen or a blank page. Just make some marks, even if they're not perfect. And before you know it, it starts coming together. you might even trash that, or you might put that to the side, but then you might pull it back and use it.
Yeah.
But it's to just start going. And once you start going, it actually is freeing, because that's when all of a sudden, as you're starting to put down some pencil mileage, or you're starting to put down some keyframes, or you're starting to put down some clay, or you're starting to put down some paint, or you're starting to put down some glue or tape or whatever it is, you just you let that go. You go through one or two phases almost on autopilot, and then it slowly, almost like osmosis, just flows in, and then you just start to, oh, here comes an idea. Oh, here comes, oh, you know what, I'm going to try this, or you know what, oh, there's this handy new tool, I'm going to try, I'll bulge, or I'll stretch, or I'll do this, or I'll, you know, I don't even know what this is, but let's slap it on there. And so get crazy and try new things and discover new ways. And when you do, you all of a sudden start to say, hey, wait, I have another idea. And that's where the flow comes, and that's when the excitement happens, and that's when the fuel and the juice starts to flow, and you're like, okay. And before you know it, you're just, wait, I committed to, either a timer will go off, or sometimes I don't set a timer, and it's like, I don't want to stop, or holy cow, I only am going to get 3 hours of sleep tonight. This is nuts. What am I doing? But, you know, but that's what happens.
No, I think you nailed it. Yeah.
It
that's
is
beautiful.
Yeah. But so
just get started. You've got to not be afraid to get the junk out.
Get the trash out first. And I mean, the first, whatever you're doing is going to be bad for the first, because if you're just going from nothing into just sitting down and starting, it's going to just be trash until you've warmed up. Just like you might need to stretch before you actually go on a run, or you're going to, you know. What I also know, the other thing that definitely helps is, you know what, just copy something, because I find that when I'm blocked, the probably some of the fastest ways. So if I'm truly just not even thinking about, nothing's coming to me, I have a complete mental block, take something else you want to do, whether it's landscape study, or it's a gesture drawing, or it's expression study, or it's painting with,
or it's something digital, it's UI design, or some 3D motion graphics thing, and you want to try to, how would I reproduce that?
Yeah, exactly. Or look at, or even sometimes I get into this thing, I've been following a few people that are doing some pretty amazing things with like different built-in effects and presets of animation softwares, and then trying to create like an energy thing, or a fire, or rain, or a water drop, or whatever. Yeah. And noodling with those too. Same thing. Yeah. It's like look at and try to think of where would I start? Okay, let's start with this, and let's try to go from there. But just copy. Don't even. And I don't mean that like you're going to actually take and copy something and then call it your own and produce it. I'm just saying, you look at that, just like you said, just to do it, just to see if you can figure out how they created it, but also just
as a study,
just copy. And before you know it, as you're doing it, that I think I'm getting at the key is, as you're in the motions and as you're warming up, all of a sudden there's this osmosis of thought and ideas, and that's when you're in. It's
like I could take this technique and apply it to this other project, or this thing I've wanted to do, and that'll look really cool. And that's how those things happen. And then to build on that, and I think that's perfect. And it's one of those things that's so stupid simple that it's like, what? Yeah, of course. Why didn't we think of that? So the Trevor's had an advantage longer than the rest of us. But seriously, like another thing that I've noticed is when I'm busy, when I'm facing a busy weekend that I know I'm going to have to work through the weekend, or my day job is keeping me so busy, that's when my best ideas come for things like I can do on the side, like my own personal projects. Like, I just yearn to work on this.
And it's a trap sometimes.
Try this. Yeah.
I mean, record.
So what happens, yeah,
because otherwise
you've got to capture it somehow real quick. Like, here's my idea. I'm going to write it on a little piece of paper, or do a quick sketch and the
because
iPad.
Not to interrupt you, I'll let you finish your thought. It's just, I get those too, but if I don't just record them and say, okay, to the side, I'll go down that rabbit's hole. I'll spend an hour or more, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh wait, I gotta get back to work, and then I spend extra time editing because I'm behind. I just spent an hour on this.
Yeah.
Now I gotta make up that hour later, which then pushes off that time to actually work on that project. It's like, okay, just focus, get it done, and then go back. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
That's what I was just gonna say. Sometimes you're trapped.
You summed it up perfectly. Yeah. Yeah, you summed it up perfectly. That's when the best ideas come, but obviously you can't afford to just, not worry about your day job, not worry about the freelance project you committed to, and throw that aside because inspiration struck. Instead, you've got to, like you say, write it down, capture it in a quick little sketch, in 5 minutes, and then later, when you're freed up and you're flipping through your sketchbook or your iPad Procreate, tiles, and you're like, oh yeah, there was that idea. Okay, now I know what I'm going to work on this weekend, where it's a 3-day weekend, and I don't have a big event next week or whatever.
Yeah, no, for real. Speaking of Procreate.
Speaking of that, we do have a big project coming up next week, and so finish your thought on Procreate. But I know we both need to get back to it.
Yeah, we need to get back to it, but I can't leave without at least mentioning Procreate Dreams. I was floored. I saw this thing. Obviously, I saw it coming, and I'm here in London. I really wish I went to the actual event. I should have been there.
Yeah.
I should have taken some time off to just go.
There was an event in London?
Well, that whole announcement was there in London. Yeah. And so It was kind of, I kicked myself that I didn't go to this whole like conference of stuff and see these creatives, because several amazing artists did great full like animated shorts within Procreate Dreams, and they were like there. I mean, it was pretty awesome. But
Aaron Blaze,
his stuff was on there, and so, but it looks exciting. I'm really impressed with how much people are loving it already and thinking about it. And I mean, people that aren't even into animation, people that are just into whether they do it for, like, they use Procreate for just doing lettering, or they use Procreate for graphic design and logo.
Well, I'm amazed at the cool things that people create animation-wise out of the current version of Procreate. I think that kind of introduced a lot of people to animation who otherwise wouldn't have, and now Procreate's like, we're going to double down and create a dedicated thing.
Because I feel like I never really liked animating in Procreate with the current way, just because of how much of an animator I already am. I was like, this is not the way to animate. This is just, it really isn't. It's frustrating compared to the robustness of some of these other tools. But now it looks like it's going to try to trump all other tools and be king, and I'm excited for that. I have great love for these other ones, but we'll see. So I can't wait for November 22nd to roll around. I'll be buying that immediately. Yeah. I'm glad that it's not even a subscription, that it's just a one-time. Like, I always love the one-time. I mean, that is the best model of all models, but subscription's okay too.
But no, they seem to be getting super inventive too, Procreate. I mean, I can't think of it right now, but I remember in the little trailer video I saw, it's like, oh wow, what a way to leverage the touch pencil iPad type interface, and you're not just trying to duplicate what's done on the desktop. You're actually taking what's amazing about this device.
Those features of being able to just use that, like you're saying, to already like animate a few other parameters, but then use your actual stylus to either like have a character move, and then as soon as you release, it will stop, and will stop the playhead, so that you could then, or you could even scrub down to a different part in the, say, dialogue or audio track, and then touch the pen again and make the next action happen. So it's like you can just with your touch, like I feel like there's just so much new ways of animating and possibilities just from that are going to make some pretty cool creative things. Like that's really exciting. So I love that. I love new innovation, new ways to just find how to do something that would otherwise sometimes be hard, but now it's a little faster because you can kind of maybe cut some corners with it. So those are like, I don't mean to keep, like you said, taking time, but I just wanted to touch upon it because I needed to.
No, it had to be brought up.
Out. Yeah. I can't wait to touch it. We'll have a whole another version on just these iPad apps and Procreate Dreams.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, I always love chatting with you, Trevor. I think we're so aligned on a lot of our interests and so many things. So thanks for taking the time out of what's a busy start of your weekend already. I know it's late, getting later for you, so appreciate your time. And
thank you.
I mean, we literally got to find a way to do this like on the weekly because it's so fun.
Yeah.
So
no, I definitely have some more
juicy
things to talk about, so we'll do that sometime. So all right, hey, thanks.
Okay, there it is, episode 50. Am I right? Was this not an amazing episode? I mean, Trevor's passion for all things animation and the tools that create it is contagious, and I loved geeking out with them about that, and honestly, our conversation could have gone for 2 or 3 more hours because there's just that much to talk about. So stay tuned for a part 2, if you will, of this conversation. We're gonna dial Trevor up, get him back, and so appreciate it. Number 50. Now, if you want to do something, a little something to help celebrate this event, you know what you can do. Yeah, it's the thing I ask more than anything else. That would be, go tell your friends, go tell your family, tell a colleague, a coworker, all the things, insert noun here. Anyone with the ability to pull up the podcast, be it on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, we're all over. And we just love to share the good word of creativity and making it real. Okay? That's what we do here. We're keeping it real while making it real. I can see that on a t-shirt someday. Let me know if that's something you want. No, but seriously, till next time, my friends, keep on creating. Create or die.